Welcome to Learning Mirth Connect. I'm glad you could join me. My name is Clayton, and I'll be your instructor over this course. In this course, you can expect to learn about Mirth Connect and how to use it to transform and route data. Specifically, we'll be using version 3.11, but a lot of the key principles still apply to the earlier versions. By the end of the course, you'll have all the necessary skills to integrate Mirth into your environment for routing your messages, as well as know all the features that Mirth holds. If you're already an experienced Mirth professional, you may still find this course very helpful, but I will be splitting this course into sections, so if you feel like you already know a specific feature, feel free to just skip to the next video or stay and brush up on the feature. So who's this course for? Learning Mirth Connect can be for anyone who wants to learn about Mirth. Simply, this course could be for a beginner to intermediate programmer, or it could be for an experienced Mirth professional who wants to touch up on all things Mirth has to offer. You may also just be somebody who likes to watch videos rather than read page upon page of documentation. If so, you're in the right spot. However, in this course we will be going over beginner to intermediate levels of programming, so if you have experience with conditional statements, string manipulation, arrays, and basic data structures, then you should be able to follow along. I also assume you'll have some experience with HL7, XML, CSV files, pipe delimited files, and database fundamentals, as well as basic networking knowledge. If you don't know much about HL7, then don't worry, we'll be going over some basics in this course. So what is Mirth, and why do so many healthcare organizations use it? To understand it a bit better, let's first start out with a scenario. A patient goes to a hospital for an emergency. They have labs ran, procedures performed, and diagnoses recorded. After getting out of the hospital, they request a follow-up with an outpatient care facility. The outpatient care then will request the patient's records from the hospital the patient just visited. Traditionally, the data would be exchanged via computer systems. However, the data can be delayed, lost, or intercepted. Also, their system may not have the same protocols or versions of software to read the data. So this is where Mirth would step in. Mirth is like a middleman, communicating via channels and different communication methods to dynamically and effectively transfer data without the need to manually send data back and forth. To set up this communication, Mirth uses a feature called channels that can grab data and send to different destinations with high configuration on how the channel can be constructed. So if we look back at our scenario, instead of sending the data manually to the outpatient care facility, we can have a channel built to transfer the patient's file to the outpatient facility, and they can import it into their EMR using Mirth or another interface engine. This is really useful because we can use HL7 to send the records, and each system can process it to ingest into their system regardless of where it came from. Another use case for a Mirth channel can be setting up an interface for a hospital's EMR to dynamically build HL7 messages from the EMR's database and send to an outpatient care facility. In the simplest of definitions, Mirth is a middleware that connects health systems together so they can exchange data and administrative information. So you can see why so many health organizations use Mirth. It allows them to dynamically and effectively transfer that data without having to manually send it. While going through this course or after the course, you may run into a problem you just can't quite figure out. From my experience, there's not much on Stack Overflow for Mirth. However, there is a few resources I wanted to tell you about. First, if you run into any problems with Mirth, you can always reference the Mirth forum. There you can find other professionals who use Mirth daily that have run into problems in the past. There you can see their questions and answers they received, and you may even find an issue similar to what you're facing. Also, Mirth Connect is open source. This means you can fork your own project and implement features you would like. The official discussion board is on GitHub under NextGen's Healthcare's repository. Here you can post new discussions and questions. Also, if you want to read some documentation or want proper documented instructions on how to install Mirth Connect, NextGen has user guides, installation guides, and documentation. You can check out NextGen's website for these documents. Just to recap, you can check out the Mirth Community Forum for historical Q&As. You can check out the NextGen GitHub for the discussion board where you can ask questions. And you can check out NextGen's website for official documentation on user guides, install guides, and more. Before we dive into the Mirth Connect administrator, I think it's important to go over a brief intro into how Mirth works. So we know that Mirth can receive data from many different sources and route that data to one or more destination. These interfaces that hold this ability is what Mirth calls channels. Channels are an essential part of Mirth and can be configured in many different ways. When deployed, channels can connect the sending application to one or many receiving applications. And every channel is going to be split up into two sections, a source and a destination. A sending application is what Mirth calls a source, and a receiving application is a destination. Once we edit a channel, the source and destinations will be in their own individual tabs. So with source and destinations, each have three main components. First is a connector. The source has an inbound connector, while the destinations have an outbound connector. After the channels has connected the data using the connectors, the data will then be sent to components called filters and transformers. Depending on the connector, they'll allow us to receive or send data to or from an application. There are multiple types of connectors. Some are TCP connectors, JavaScript connectors, database connectors, and more. The connector in the source is going to be called an inbound connector. These are going to be the listeners and readers. These are also what connects Mirth to the sending application, while the connectors in the destinations are called outbound connectors. These are the senders and writers, and they are what sends or writes the messages to the destinations. Filters is another component of a channel. They determine if a message should be processed or filtered. These filters use rules to determine what message should go through. Multiple rules can be layered, and if more than one rule is created, they can allow an AND operator or an OR operator to be configured. For destinations, the filters are a key component for only allowing the correct type of data through. Transformers are configured to translate a message to a required data type, or match any specifications that the destination might need. Usually these are determined by the requirements of the system. Transformers can also extract pieces of information from the message to be processed outside of the channel. There are also multiple types of transformers. To name just a few, a JavaScript transformer, an iterator, an external script, and much more. The transformer gets the data from the filter. Each destination is going to have a filter, transformer, and connector. And because we have components such as connectors, filters, and transformers, channels can be configured to translate large processing tasks into smaller sequential steps. To review, a message is generated or received from the source using an inbound connector. The message will then be sent to the source filter and transformer. If the message still needs processing, it will be sent to each destination filter and transformer, then ultimately being sent to the destination using the outbound connector. Next, we'll dive into the Mirth Connect administrator and create our first channel and look more into the depth of connectors, filters, and transformers. So now that we have Mirth Connect administrator open, let's have a look. So the default view you're going to get is the dashboard view. So there's two significant portions of the dashboard view. There's a channels list view, and then there's log portion view. We'll mostly be concerned with the channel portion at this point. We'll go into the log portion in a little bit. However, you see we don't have any channels to look at right now. That's because we don't have any created. So in order to get the different views, there's options up here on the Mirth Connect, and you can see the different views that we can look at. We're currently on the dashboard view, but in order to create a new channel, let's go to the channels view. So this is the channels view. This is going to show us all the channels, whether they're deployed, undeployed, enabled, or disabled. We don't have any right now, so let's go ahead and create a new channel. And that's under the channels task. So this is going to be the default view you're going to get when you create a new channel. There's a few properties we want to change right now in order to create our new channel. And that's the name and the data types. So let's go ahead and name our channel. Let's name it our first channel. Pretty descriptive. So next, let's change our data types. Let's go ahead and click Save Data Types. So it gives us this view. The default data type you can see up here is HL7. Now we want to send in a message that says hello world. So we don't want that to set it as a HL7 message. We want it to be a string. So if you click on the data type, there's going to be a drop down. You can see the different data types here that we can choose. What we're going to choose is we're going to choose raw. Now what raw is for is it's going to take in any message and it's going to treat it as just a string, just a raw message. It's not going to do any validation to the message or throw an error. Now we need to set that for each step. We need to set it for our source connector and also our destination connector. So let's go ahead and set raw to each of these. And if you notice, when we set raw on the outbound connector, on the outbound source connector, it set it on the inbound destination connector. Now let's change the outbound destination to raw again. And let's click OK. Alright, now we need to save our changes. So you can save your changes over here in the channel tasks menu, or you can also press Control S. I'll press Control S quite a bit. Let's save our changes. So now we need to deploy our channel. We're ready to deploy and send a message to it. So you can deploy it, Are you sure you want to deploy this channel? Yes. Okay, you can see our channel first popped up here. You can see that we haven't received any messages, and then subsequently we haven't filtered, queued, or sent, or errored any messages. So let's double click into the channel and see what we get. So that's going to pull up the message view for the channel. So you can see up here at the top, there's some filters that we can look at that can filter out the messages that we received. We haven't received any, so there's no need to filter out any messages. But this is going to be where you see all your messages. And then this is going to be where you see all the message content. So let's go ahead and send a new message. In order to do so, there's two ways. You can right click here in the channels view and send message, and that's going to pop up with this text area where we can insert our message. Or you can go back to the dashboard view and click on your channel, right click, and there's also the send message option as well. So let's go ahead and click on that, and we'll type in hello world. Once you're done with that, you can press process message. So what that's going to do is that's going to send to our message, or send to our channel, and our channel's going to do with it what it wants. Process. Now you can see we received one message. None were filtered, none are queued, and one was sent. So let's go back into our first channel. You can see we have the message. So the source is going to be where it was first received, and the destination is going to be the destination that it went to. So if we click on source, you can see down here we have the message content. We have different options. So what raw is it's going to be the raw message that we received. So it's going to be without any processing to the message. Encoded is going to be what was changed about the message. You can also click on destination. Destination has raw and encoded as well. Usually the raw is just going to be the encoded version of the source. So we can see if we click encoded as well, it's going to be the same thing because we haven't changed any part of the message. You can click on sent. So that's going to show where it was sent. So right now we're not sending it to anywhere. We're just sending it to a blank channel. And then the content. Also, we can see the response. So if there was any channel we sent to it, then when did we get that response back? So this is the end of our first channel. Next we'll go into more of the views and go into all the different views we have here. Now we'll look more into the depth of the dashboard view. So like I said before, the dashboard view is going to be that default view that appears when you first log into Mirth. So in the dashboard view, you're going to see all your deployed channels. So you can see all our deployed channels here. Since the last time we were together, I added a few more channels just so we could look at the dashboard view a little bit better. So I added our second channel, test channel 1, test channel 2, as well as these channel groups. Now a channel group is just going to be a group of channels. And I just labeled them new group 1 and new group 2. So before we get started, over here to the top right of the dashboard table, we can see the different columns that are enabled. So if you want, we can disable status and we can enable it again. So we have them all enabled. So this is going to be the dashboard table view. This is going to hold all of our deployed channels. So let's go through some of these columns. So to start, there's a status column. So the status is going to show you what the channel is at. So what status it's going to be at. So this could include started, starting, paused, pausing, stopping, stopped, deploying, or undeploying. And it's all going to depend on what your channel's going to do. So what you want your channel to do. For instance, if I want to pause or stop the channel, I can click stop. It's going to be stopped. Let's go ahead and start it back up. The next column we have is the name. So this is going to be the name of the channel group. It's also going to be the name of the channel. And also in each one of these channels, you can expand the plus button next to the channel name, and you can see your source and your destination. So it's going to show those as well. If we had multiple destinations, it's going to show all of those destinations. Next we have the revision column. So this revision column is going to show us the amount of revisions since we have last deployed our channel. If there's more than 0, then this is going to be highlighted. Now next to revisions, we have the last deployed. So this is going to be the date that we've last deployed a channel. Now this last deployed column is going to be highlighted if the channel's been deployed in less than 2 minutes. So if I go back to channels and I go to our second channel and I deploy it, now it's going to be highlighted. Now next to last deployed, we have the amount of messages and the statistics for these messages. So we have received, we have filtered, queued, sent, and errored. So the received column is going to be that amount of messages that the source connector has received. And the filtered column is going to be the amount of messages that were either filtered in the source or in the destination. Next we got the queued. So this is going to be the amount of queued messages we have. So for example, if our channel is stopped, then we might have a few queued messages in here. Now if the queued amount is more than 0, then it's going to be highlighted. Next we have the sent. So this is going to be the number of messages that have been sent by our destination connectors. And then next to sent we have errored. And errored is going to be the number of messages errored at any point in the channel. So this will be in the source or the destinations. It'll be highlighted red if there are any messages that have errored. Next we have the connection. So the connection is going to be the current process of the channel. So you'll see idle, reading, polling, sending, and connected. So idle is just going to be where the source connector isn't processing a receiving message. That's going to be the default of the connection for the channel. We also have reading, and reading is going to be the source connector is generating messages to send to the channel. So for example, this might be a JavaScript reader creating messages for the channel from a database. Next we might have polling. So it might be polling for messages to receive. Also sending. So sending is going to be the destination is currently sending a message outward. And the last one we have is connected. So the source connector might be connected to multiple clients. So this is where it's actively reading back and forth between the client. Now, if the connection status is red, then this means it can't connect to any more clients. So that means you've connected to the maximum amount of clients that you can. it will still stay connected to the clients that it already has, but it just won't take on any more. So down at the bottom, we have filtered. So this text box is going to allow us to filter any messages that we want to see. So for example, if we just want to see test channel 2 in the dashboard table, we can type in test channel 2 and click enter, and only test channel 2 is going to appear. In order to get out of that, there's this X. We can click X. Also, if you want to search for text in the channel name, we can also do that. So if we want to search for channel, click enter. It'll show all the ones with channel in its name. However, all of our channels currently have channel in its name. So let's use a better example. Let's just use hour. However, I got all the channels with year in it. Now by default, if we type in hour, it's going to appear with 2 channels here. And if I click enter, it's going to select the first channel. So I click enter, it's going to pop up our first channel. But what if I want to look at all the channels that start with hour? Well, let's go ahead and just enter in hour, and then in order to just get hour, you need to escape. So you can press the escape key and then press enter, and that's going to get all the channels that start with hour. Now another way to clear this is we can press this red X. So that'll clear all of our filters. Now next to the filters input box, we have some numbers and some groups, and also the deployed channels. So this is going to be the amount of groups that are currently in your dashboard table. Next to that, we also have how many deployed channels are in our dashboard table. So if we go back here and we select our first channel, you can see that it's updated. So it's currently showing 1 of 3 groups. So it's showing the default group, and it filtered 2 channel groups. Also, it's showing 1 of 4 deployed channels, our first channel. It filtered 3 channels, and this is the text that we entered into the filtered input. So let's go ahead and clear that out. Now over to the right, we will skip over these for now. But over to the far right, we can see these 2 buttons, groups and channels. So by default, it's going to list your channels with their groups. However, if we want to just see all of our channels in a list, we can click the channels button. So that's going to list all of our channels. So let's go back. So down below the dashboard table, we can see some more tabs. So this is going to be first our server log. So this is going to be any log in the server is going to appear here. So you might see multiple entries. I'm going to go ahead and create some logs. Okay, I'm back. Now I just created some logs that are going to be in our log file. Now each of the logs are going to be displayed in this log server log. Now each of these logs are going to be in a file in our configuration folders, and we can view them there, but we also can view them here. So you can see it has at the timestamp of the log, it's going to have the type of log, where it was generated, and the log. So if this log was too long for us to see all of it throughout this whole screen, you can also double click and view the entire message. And here you can also highlight and copy. So I just did Control C. So I copied the message. So I close it. You can also pause the server logs. So if there is any logs that were generated just now, it wouldn't appear in our server log. This is especially helpful when you're trying to track down a log, or if you're trying to view multiple logs at once. So I'm going to start it again. And next to the pause and resume log button, we have the clear display log. So if we want to get rid of all these logs, we can. You can clear it that way. However, let's go over to the right side. So we have the log size. So the default is 50. So this is going to be the amount of logs that we want to see in our log view. So now if we say 2 and press the check mark, it'll only show the last 2 logs. We'll switch it back to 50. Now let's clear out these logs. So the next tab we have is a connection log. So this is going to show all of what's happened with our messages in our channels. So for example, you can see where we've had a message be sent through. Now the server logs, they are saved to a file, but the connection log is only saved in memory. So once these are deleted, you can't get them back. And you can see the timestamp, the channel, the connector info, the event, and any info about the connection log. Next we have the global maps. I won't go too much into the global maps just yet. We'll go over that in a separate lesson. But this is going to show us all the global map variables for a channel. So you can select a channel and go to global maps and see what map variables are here. So now, if we go back up to our dashboard table and over to the left, you can see some dashboard tasks. So the first item is the refresh. So if we were expecting the received message count to go up, then we can refresh the dashboard table just to make sure. So next we have the send message. So this is going to send the message that we currently have highlighted. So let's go and click on our first channel and click send message. So like before, let's send hello world. We can go down here and process our message. We can hit refresh. And now we can see that we just added another message. So let's go back to the send message. There's also a few other options we can get. So we can also open a text file. So this will allow us to go into our local directory and select any text file we want, and it will import it into the message pop-up. So you can see that I have multiple text messages. Also, we could open up a binary file. So this is just going to open up an encoded string and display it as base64. So we can click close. Next we have view messages. So view messages is going to view the messages that a channel is currently selected on. So this is going to be the same as double clicking on our channel, or we can also just click on view messages. So this is going to take us to the message viewer for the channel. Here we can see all the messages. But let's go back. Now we also have remove all messages. So this is going to remove all the messages for your currently selected channel. So let's click on remove all messages, and it pops up with a pop-up. It's making sure that we want to remove all of our messages and even the queued messages. Now there is a checkbox right here that says include selected channels that are not stopped. So it wants you to stop your channel first before you clear out your messages. However, our channel we currently have selected is started. So we'll want to go ahead and check mark this, and we'll press yes, and it'll pop up with a clarification message that it wants us to type in remove all in order to make sure we want to remove all the messages. Click OK. Now you can see it's going to clear out all of our messages. And if we go in to view the messages, it removed all the messages. So we can't see any of our messages. Let's go back to dashboard. Let's go ahead and send another message. So now under remove all messages, there's clear statistics. So this is going to be the statistics we have for these received, filtered, queued, sent, and errored. So if we just want to remove the statistics, but we don't want to remove the actual message, then we click on clear statistics, and you can check mark which statistic you want to remove or you want to clear. Now we can click all of these, or we could have inverted our selection. Click OK. And you see it cleared out our amounts, but if we go in to see the messages, they're still there. Go back to dashboard. Now in the dashboard table, we can also pause, start, and stop messages. So the started status, it allows the channel to process messages as well as the connector and read for any new incoming messages. And the stop doesn't allow the channel to process messages or read for any new messages. So let's stop our first channel. So you can see that it's stopped. And you can see that we don't have paused or start anymore. So you need to start a channel in order to pause it. So let's start this channel back up, and let's click pause. And what pause does is it allows the channel to process only the queued messages but not read for any new messages. So it basically halts the source connector from polling or reading for any new messages. So if we had a queued amount here, it would only process through all those queued messages but not receive any more. You might also see the status. You can see how the default group has a status of mixed. So that's because we have a started and a paused channel. You can see new group 2, it only has a started channel, so it's going to display as started. So now moving down, we can also undeploy a channel. So this is going to get rid of our channel from the dashboard list. So let's undeploy. There you go. Now it's gone. And you can see down here, we only have 3 deployed channels. Next, we'll look at the message browser view. This is going to allow us to view and search our messages in our channels. It'll also allow us to reprocess, import, export, and remove messages. So first, let's go to the dashboard view. So there's a few ways we can see the message browser view. We can double click the channel, Also, we can click the View Messages task in the Dashboard Task menu items. Or, if we go to the Channels view, we can click on our channel, and in the Channels Task menu items, click View Messages at the bottom. So these all take us to the message browser view. So first, we'll have a look in the metadata table. So this is going to show us all of our metadata for each message in our search criteria and each step it was at in our channel. By default, the latest 20 messages by our ID are shown. So we can see all of our messages. Now by default, the metadata table will only show 8 columns. The ID, the connector, status, receive date, response date, errors, and also source and type. So the source is going to be for HL7, and it's going to be the MSH 4.1 field. Type is going to be the MSH 9.1 field. We can add or remove columns from this table. So if we go to the top right of the metadata table, we can see where we can enable and disable our columns. So you can see we have ID. So this is going to be the ID of the message. We also have the connector. So that's going to be the name of the connector. So it could either be source or destination. It could also be the destination names you have in here. So if there was multiple destinations, it would list all the destination names. We also have status. So this is going to be the current status of the message in that connector. So for example, some of the common types for source is going to be received. So this is when the message was first received. We could have filtered. So this could mean that the message was rejected by the filter. We could also have transformed, like we have here. That just means that the message passed through the transformer and was transformed. Or we could also have error. An error could be when we receive an error while processing the message. Now in the destinations, we could have received. So this is when it was just received from the source. We could have filtered, where it was rejected by the filter. We could also have sent. So this is going to be where the message was successfully sent to the destination. We could also have queued. So this is where the destination connector is attempting to send the message, but it's queuing up. We could also have errored, where it was being errored, either transforming the data, sending the data, or processing the data. And then we could also have pending. So this is going to be where it was able to write the message to the outbound, but hasn't yet received a response. So next we have the original receive date. It's going to be the original receive date of the message. I'm also going to have receive date. So this is going to be the receive date, whether we reprocess a message or the original receive date. We can also have a number of attempts to send the message. Either the attempts for the source connector to send to the destination, or the destination connector to send to the destination. So we could also have send date, and this is going to apply only to the destination connector, and it's going to be the most recent send attempt date and time. We also have response date. So for the source connector, it's going to be immediately before the connector sent the response back to the point of origin. And for the destination connector, this could be the time that the connector received and stored the response from the outbound system. So wherever we're sending the message. So we could also have errors. So this is going to be where we're processing the message and it errored. And we also have the server ID. And this is going to be the ID of the server where the message was being processed. Also, we can have the original server ID. So this is where it was originally processed. An original ID. This is going to be the original ID of the processed message. Import ID. The imported ID of the message. Import channel ID. This is going to be the original channel ID of the imported message. And then we have source and type. Source and type is going to be a metadata column. So this is going to be variables that we set in our global or channel maps. And we can view it in our data table for processing and filtering. We'll look into more of those metadata types later on. Now if we remove a column, this data doesn't get removed. It will appear if we enable that column again. So if we wanted to remove status, I can disable status. And you can see that we don't have the statuses anymore. But if I go in here, enable the status again, we can see it. Now if we right click on one of the columns, go down to the bottom, you can see collapse and expand. So we can collapse to just see the source metadata. So you can see how we just have each row for the source. Now we can also expand all. And this is going to view all of our metadata. So it's going to be the source and each destination. So if we had two destinations here, it would list all the metadata for each destination. So next we can see some tabs down below the table. And first, we'll look at the message content tab. This tab is going to show us the contents of the message at each step in the channel as it passes through the connectors. So in order to view a message, we first need to click on the message in the table above. We can then see the message in the Message tab. We can cycle through each step of the message with the radio buttons right above the message content. So for example, the raw message is going to be the inbound message as it received and stored in the channel. So this is going to be the message that we first received from our source. We also have encoded. So this is going to be what message is left after the transformer transformed the data. So this is going to be the outbound message to the destination. Now if we click on the destination message, we can see we get a few more radio button options. So the raw and encoded is going to be the same as the source message content. But we also have sent. So sent is going to be a snapshot of what metadata was sent. So we can see that we have the content here. It's going to be our message. We also may have some variable maps, and we can see what it was sent to. So this one, it's a channel ID. Next we can see our response. So the response is going to be the response object returned by the destination connector. So this would include the response status, status message, and the actual response received. Next we'll look at the mappings table. So this tab will show us all the entries stored in the variable maps for the selected message. We'll come back to this view when we go over variable maps, but as you can see here, there are some default variable types. You can think of these as variables stored for these messages so they can be referenced elsewhere. And as you can see, we have Mirth source, and that matches the source in our column. You can also see the Mirth type, and this matches the type in our type column. So these values are going to be what gets mapped to these columns. Now let's go back to our second channel to view our messages. So we can see their messages and their metadata as well as attachments. But what about searching for a specific message or viewing later messages? Well, we can do that with the filter options above the metadata table. So you can see up here at the top left, we have the filter options. So first we have the start time. So this is going to be the start time of the message from when we first received it. So if we wanted June 5th, the start of June 5th to June 6th, then we could set start date to June 5th. Let's say all day. And the end date to June 6th. And let's search. So we can see all the messages that we received on June 5th. Now also, if we wanted to view a message that has a specific text in the message, we could also go in the text search, enter in whatever text we wanted to search for. So say we were looking for this message, and we were looking for Charles White. So I'm going to copy that, paste it up here, and we can do search again. Now search takes quite a long time depending on the amount of messages we have in our channel. So it could take quite a bit to search through a whole bunch of messages. In our case, it's going to be pretty quick. So you can see that we got one message. So now that we have our message, we could also just view different statuses. So if we just want our original sent message to our destination, we can also click on Sent and search, and it's just going to give our sent message. We can click on that and view whatever message we wanted. This could also work with the transformed or any of these message statuses. So if we just wanted the source and the transformed, we can get the source. Now if we had a lot of results, then we could limit the page size or increase it using the page size input text right here. Default, it's 20. And if we wanted to just reset all the filters, we can click Reset. So that takes it back to the regular filter options. To the right, you can also see the current search. So this is going to be all the filters that are attached to the message data table down here. If we search again, we can see that it goes back to the default. Now if we go down to an error message, we get another tab. This is the Errors tab. So this tab will only appear if there has been an error thrown in the channel. We can tell there is an error thrown by the status of the message. In the Error tab, we can view the error thrown by the channel and any other important information regarding the error. So we can see the channel, the connector, so this is in the source connector, some of the source code where it errored out, the line number it specifically errored at, and also the syntax error, or the error details. So if we can see, we tried to send just a regular hello world, this is going to be an error, to this channel, but however this channel only receives HL7. There's also another tab called Attachments. Now let's go over to a channel that accepts attachments. Go to Dashboard, and I've created a DICOM listener channel. Now we can see the source first message has an attachment. We can see the Attachments tab right here. So we can see the raw and the encoded message and the attachments. So in this view, there's a few columns. First is going to be the number. So this is going to be the index of the attachment attached to the message. Usually this is going to start at 1 and increment with every attachment. Next we have the type. So this is going to be the type of the attachment stored. This could be text/plain or application/PDF, depending on what you specify in your channel. Next we have the attachment ID. So this is going to be the unique ID of the attachment that's stored in the Mirth database. Now there's two ways to view an attachment. We can either double click the attachment row and we can select which attachment viewer, or we can select our message, and on the left hand side under the message tasks we can see view attachment. So let's go ahead and send our own attachment. You can right click on the data table and let's send a message. We can open a binary file. Let's send the Mirth logo. It's going to show the base 64 encoded message. Let's process message. And we'll have to click search again. So let's view our message. And you can see that there's an attachment. So let's view. And let's select the image viewer because we know it's an image. Click OK. You can see that's the Mirth logo. Now what if we tried to select text viewer? You can see that this is the base 64 decoded. It's not going to show us much. We can also see it encoded. There's a few types we can send through. So another one we can send through is a PDF. So let's go ahead and send another message and select a PDF. And let's look at this PDF. So as you can see, I have a dummy PDF file. And we can view the contents of the PDF using this PDF viewer. There's going to be some outlines here that we can see. You can see over here it's going to view every single page. I've only got one page, so it's just viewing the first page. Now let's go back to our second channel to view our messages. So we can see their messages and their metadata as well as attachments. But what about searching for a specific message or viewing later messages? Well, we can do that with the filter options above the metadata table. So you can see up here at the top left, we have the filter options. So first we have the start time. So this is going to be the start time of the message from when we first received it. So if we wanted June 5th, the start of June 5th to June 6th, then we could set start date to June 5th, let's say all day, and the end date to June 6th. And let's search. So we can see all the messages that we received on June 5th. Now also, if we wanted to view a message that has a specific text in the message, we could also go in the text search and enter in whatever text we wanted to search for. So say we were looking for this message and we were looking for Charles White. So I'm going to copy that, paste it up here, and we can do search again. Now search takes quite a long time depending on the amount of messages we have in our channel. So it could take quite a bit to search through a whole bunch of messages. In our case, it's going to be pretty quick. So you can see that we got one message. So now that we have our message, we could also just view different statuses. So if we just want our original sent message to our destination, we can also click on sent and search. And it's just going to give our sent message. We can click on that and view whatever message we wanted. This could also work with the transformed or any of these message statuses. So if we just wanted the source and the transformed, we can get the source. Now if we had a lot of results, then we could limit the page size or increase it using the page size input text right here. Default, it's 20. And if we wanted to just reset all the filters, we can click reset. So that takes it back to the regular filter options. To the right, you can also see the current search. So this is going to be all the filters that are attached to the message data table down here. If we search again, we can see that it goes back to the default. Now there's also some more advanced options. So let's click Advanced. So in here, we can specify if we want to include or not include different connectors. So this could be our source connector or our different destination connectors. So say we just want to see our source connector, we can hit OK. And we can search again, and it's going to be just our source connectors. Let's go back to Advanced. And you can also select all or deselect all. So we'll select all again. We could also search for a specific type of message ID. So say we just wanted 2 through 6. Let's enter in 2 to start and 6 to end. Press OK. And with search, we'll only have 2, 3, and 6. You can also do that with the original ID, the import ID, server ID, and sending attempts. Also, if we wanted to see all the messages that had an error, we can click that, go OK. We just get error messages. So let's delete these. Press OK. Go back to the default. So we have these different custom metadata table columns. So this is going to allow us to filter and sort based on these columns. We specify these in our channels. Source and type is just what Mirth gives us. So we can also use the advanced filtering feature to filter through these columns. Go to Advanced. Down at the bottom, we can see the metadata. So we can hit New, and you can see we have source and type here. These correspond to these two columns. So let's move this over, and let's say we wanted to see all the messages from a specific source. So we'll see XYZ _ hospital. We could ignore case or make it case specific. Let's click out of that so it saves, and then we'll click OK. And search. You can see that we have all the messages from XYZ hospital. You can also combine them and have another filter option. So say we just wanted the SIU S12 messages from XYZ hospital. Click out, and then OK. And search. And you can see that we just have that message. So there's operators in here that we can say contains, does not contain, starts with, does not start with, ends with, does not end with. These are pretty self-explanatory. Let's say we wanted to get all the messages that are ADTs. So we could say where the type starts with ADT. So we only have one that starts with an ADT. You could also do source, or source contains, let's say hospital. Okay. Search. So we have all of those hospitals messages in our metadata table. So let's delete that. And also, there's some content types. So say we wanted the raw, and if the raw contains MSH. We can also view it by the content type and what they contain. So you can see that every one of these messages has MSH. Now if we get rid of that row and search again, you can see that our errored message didn't appear because we didn't have MSH in the content.